Big name that's in this movie, Chrissy Metz
Wow.
from This Is Us. We're going to have a sneak peek on that. As well as I'll be sitting down with a woman who, in the midst of losing her marriage, turning to alcohol, and raising her children by herself, had an amazing encounter with God.
It all starts right now. We are broadcasting right across Canada, coast to coast, also online around the world, and somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's exciting. We're gonna,
oh my goodness.
We just got to hold that enthusiasm just for a couple of moments.
Yeah,
Maggie?
There's a brand new initiative that we're going to be telling you about. It is very exciting. Another place where you'll be able to see 100 Huntley Street. But of course, in other news, yesterday, the world said goodbye to George H.W. Bush, the 41st President of the United States of America. As you can see there, all living presidents were there to pay tribute to him.
Was more courageous, more principled, and more honorable than George Herbert Walker Bush.
Through our tears, let us know the blessings of knowing and loving you, a great and noble man, the best father a son or daughter could have. And in our grief, let us smile knowing that Dad is hugging Robin and holding Mom's hand again.
There's a man that loved his dad. And first President Bush was an amazing guy. You know, there's so much division in politics, but he brought the U.S. together. And I hope his legacy will repeat itself. But I mean, I just watching a son talking about his dad with such affection. That is the greatest legacy that actually H.W. Bush left.
Yeah, history has been kind to George H.W. Bush, as we saw at the National Cathedral yesterday. The place was packed as they saluted George H.W. Bush. And, you know, my mom always says, give flowers to somebody while they're alive, not when they're dead. And I think all of those people just held such a great respect for him. And so it was great to see that yesterday.
Okay, we're going to talk about something that we are very, very excited about. It's called Castle. What's a castle, you say? Building the castle in the sky. What does this mean?
I don't know. What does it mean? Let's take a look.
Christian media has been royally misunderstood. It's time for less cheese, more challenge. Less resolving, more rethinking. Less binging, more belonging. Less cringe, more craft. Less barriers, more bridges. Castle is the first video streaming service offering a collection of premium inspired media content with built-in prayer chat. You'll discover quality talk, news, kids, documentary, holiday, and reality content, all created for your enjoyment and your spiritual growth. We know that great content inspires great conversations. We're always ready to live chat about the content you've watched, discuss your spiritual questions, or simply pray for you. It's anonymous, judgment-free, and bot-free. Because life in the castle is more than you expected. Castle. It's the first streaming platform you'll love that actually loves you back. Castle is open for you.
You know, I came in this morning and there was a bouncy castle here in the building. And if you're on social media, Maggie and I are going to go there. I have a feeling I'll be the guy that'll jump in there. Hey, we are so excited. Joel Auger, Melissa McEachran, you guys are with Castle. You're up till midnight last night to launch.
Yep.
You guys must be excited. Tired, but excited.
Yes, exhausted and excited.
Now, how about you, Melissa? I mean, this has been something that you guys have been dreaming about for a while. It's a reality.
Yeah, we're so excited. Castle's launched.
I know.
We're really excited about that.
Crazy.
It's been a labor of love, and it's been a big vision from our CEO for us to create this online video streaming platform to make sure that programs like 100 Huntley Street, Contact, See, Hear, Love, Rock Kids TV, our documentaries, just our plethora of library is seen now to a whole new audience. And we just can't wait to start interacting and getting people signed up for Castle.
Yeah.
So you're on now, and I know you're building the library, but you got lots of material there. And Melissa talked about it, you know, the kinds of programs, but the why. People say, like, at home, like, okay, well, why is Crossroads doing this?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, there are many, many reasons. One is that the world is digitizing. So that's one thing that we have to do is kind of know how to be in those spaces, the digital world, online, always available. So that's just the default now. But on top of that, we really do want to pursue the legacy that David Maines set out in providing a way to reach back into the content we're making. So we believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And so we're providing people the opportunity on Castle to chat with someone who will lead them closer to Jesus.
That's the cool part about this, Melissa. Different than other video streaming services is the two-way connection here.
Absolutely, and so true to who Crossroads is and 100 Huntley Street has been for so long with our prayer lines. We're just taking that into a digital space. So we have a digital pastor who's ready right now to pray with people, interact with them, and that's what makes Castle such a unique platform. It isn't like anything else. And as Joel was saying, we believe that Jesus is the king, and he's the king of our castle. And so we want to invite people into this castle. It's open, it's available, and we want to introduce people to the person who literally can change their life. And we believe media can do that. It creates stories, it creates engagement. And so we're just excited to, let's get this thing launched, let's get going. We have a video, Greg. We want to tell people how simple it is to sign up and where it's available. So it's available as an app and also as a web browser. So can we take a look at this?
Sure, we can.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
Castle is the first video streaming service that's been created to serve you, with high-quality, faith-based media for all ages and a live 24/7 prayer chat. Castle features Christian TV shows, documentaries, teaching series, and kids content. Start your free 30-day trial of Castle and discover this quality Christian resource made for your entertainment and your spiritual growth. Sign up now at intothecastle.com.
Again, intothecastle.com. So, Joel, we are right now, as we're speaking, we're live.
We are live. Let me go into the. So I'm in the app right now. You can scroll at the top. You see Huntley there. So you just click on live, and then right away, boom. There's the commercial. It's about 15 seconds delayed.
Okay.
But there's the Castle commercial, and momentarily, here's us. Talking.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So it works on the iPad, it works on your iPhone, on Android devices, on your Apple TV, on Roku. It works on almost every platform.
And I have one of those little plugs for my phone, and then I just plug it right into the TV, and I can watch Castle anytime. Yeah. Man, we are so excited. I know you guys, it's been a labor of love. You've been burning the midnight oil, but Castle, again, this is an initiative from here to Crossroads. We want to continue to present the great message of Jesus through this amazing app. So get it today. Try it for free for a month. I know you're going to love it. Anyway, stay with us. We'll have more of 100 Huntley Street.
So my guest today's story has a direct link to this very television show. But before we get there, Deanna, it started off at the beginning in a Christian home. You grew up in a Christian home.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Well, I grew up in a Christian home with 4 other siblings, all brothers. And my mom especially was, it was really important that she take us to Sunday school and church every Sunday. So I grew up hearing about Jesus and reading and singing about him. But at that point in my life, it was more important to, the world around me was more real than that. Even though I heard all about him, it wasn't real.
At 17 years old, you found love.
At 17 years old, I met this boy in the nearby community. We fell in love. He gave me a ring that Christmas. I was 17, he was 16 years old. Our parents were very shocked. They told us, you need to give the ring back. Yeah. And in my still rebellious nature, I said, no, I'm not giving that ring back. I'm keeping it. We're getting married. And they said, knowing that I meant it, They said, well, at least agree not to marry for 3 years, wait a while. I said, sure, we can do that. We'll wait a few years.
And then you found yourself pregnant.
Then 2 months later, I found out I was pregnant, and all of a sudden that wedding was taking place that June, 1 month after my graduation.
And how did you feel growing up in a certain home, and then all of a sudden here you are, pregnant, married at a very young age?
Yes.
What was going through your mind?
Oh, it was a lot of emotional ups and downs about that. I was happy about it in one sense, to be married and having a child, but at the same time pretty young to be handling all those changes. And so there were a lot of emotions for both of us.
You say you grew up in a town called Blissville?
Actually, we lived in Blissville after we settled down and married. It was near where I grew up in Fredericton Junction. And Blissville was supposed to be where we would live out our wedded bliss, right? But it didn't happen that way.
Your husband eventually left you.
He left,
and
yes.
2 children.
Yes. He decided, this is too much for me. I'm too young to be settled with a wife and children, and I'm out of here. And at that time, I had a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old baby.
Wow.
And so he left, and I was devastated.
Yeah.
I was just completely, I felt like the biggest reject in the world at the same time.
What did that look like for you and your relationship with God at that moment?
God was very far away to me then. Instead of turning to Him, for a couple of years after my husband left, I got back into the wild partying scene that I had been in before, and just wanting to spend as much time with my peers as possible, thinking that would be the answer and bring me the comfort and the help that I desperately needed.
Yeah. Tell me about what it was like to be a single mom as well, of 2 really young kids, and you're also really young.
Yes, I was not even, well, I was barely 20 at the time. And I really found that I felt it was too much, but yet I loved my kids and I wanted to give them the best, but I didn't know what that would be. I didn't know what I could offer them. I had a grade 12 education, and I decided to just work at little jobs that I could and make ends meet and be home with my kids as much as possible. But inside, I was a mess. Yeah.
So your mom tells you about this church service happening.
Yeah.
And it's over a period of nights, and you keep rejecting, saying, no, I don't want to have anything to do with Jesus people or God or anything like that.
That's right.
But you finally cave in.
Yes, I finally give in because my mom wouldn't give up asking me. And
those moms, those persistent moms, right?
And usually she wasn't like that.
Yeah.
But she really strongly felt I should be there. And my little daughter was also expecting me to get back to church someday, because she'd been going with her grandmother every Sunday and asking me to go, and I would always say, no, it's not for me. I might go someday, but so I wanted to put her off. But then I saw that I could maybe get both of these 2 off my back if I went to church just once. You know, I could live through that.
Yeah. And someone special was speaking that night.
Yes.
Someone who is connected to this very TV show.
That's where the connection comes in. Gordon Williams, who was on staff at 100 Huntley Street at the time, was the actual guy that was there ministering every night. He was the preacher, and he was drawing crowds. Unbelievable. So when we arrived at that little church that night, it was packed full.
Wow.
And yeah.
So there wasn't even room in the sanctuary for you to sit. So you were in the basement.
We were sent to the basement, and the loudspeaker piped in the message, but I didn't hear one word that night. I was just so mad at myself for being there. I felt like it was a big waste of time, and I wanted to get home and light up my cigarette and forget about this. But I heard nothing, and the service seemed to go on forever. Finally, though, it did end, and I was anxious to get out of there, but nobody was leaving because they were staying for ministry. And I couldn't get out anyway because there were so many people at the back door, like 3, 4 deep. I couldn't get through. So I was standing there wondering, what am I going to do? This is just really nerve-wracking to be here. When all of a sudden somebody came up beside me and put their arm around me and said, Deanna, Jesus is the only one that can really help you. And He's the only one who can help me or anybody. Let's go forward together and get prayer. She was a friend of my mom's. Her name was Ida, and she lived in the village at the time. She later became my spiritual mom, but I didn't know that then. And so forward I went, very unwillingly inside, and I was just praying a desperate prayer. I said, God, if you're real, if you can't show yourself real to me tonight, then I will never go back to a church again, and I will never look for you again, because I was really questioning whether he was real or not at that point. So I said it in a way that might sound like it was defiant, but it wasn't. It was a very desperate prayer. When I got to Gordon and he put his hand on me to pray for me, I don't remember what he prayed either, and I didn't expect anything to happen, and I was determined I wasn't going to pretend that God had helped me that night if he hadn't. But all of a sudden, the presence of the Lord just covered me from head to toe. And that's the best way I can describe it. It was like just a very warm, loving, powerful, tender, amazing presence just overwhelmed me so much that the strength just left my body, and I was lying there on the floor just, I don't know how long. But while I was there on the floor, I do remember one thing besides experiencing God's beautiful presence, just his love pouring into me like, I don't know, like water. I remember thinking about the people that I felt had hurt me so much in my life, and there were a few people that I had felt bitterness and anger towards, and I remember that was all gone. It just left me, and I felt such a love for these people as the Lord began to put them into my mind. And my greatest desire was to pray for them. I knew that was not me, that was the Lord. And after I got up off the floor, people started to come and put their arms around me, and they were crying and just so happy to see what God had done, because they said, you should see your face. It's absolutely glowing.
Wow.
So that was...
And it's a journey, right? It's not an overnight change.
That's right.
There's a journey and a process.
That's right.
And over the years of journeying with God, God was able to kind of cure that loneliness for you. He brought a man into your life.
Yes, he did.
And you now have 6 children. Tell me about James and your family now.
Yes, well, he did bring James into my life. After I'd been a single parent for 12 years, James came into my life, and the Lord wants to restore. The Lord wants to bring beauty out of ashes. And he did that for both of us, actually, because James himself had lost a loved one, but it was through death. He and his wife and oldest son were killed in a tragic car accident just 5 years before I'd met him, and he too was seeking answers in his life and direction. And then the Lord put us together. We met it was actually at Youth of the Mission, just at the end of my time there, where I had been living for 7 years at that point, and was getting ready to move out. And at that time, James and I met. And the Lord put us together. I had my 2 oldest children at the time. He had his 2 children, his 2 boys, and actually he had to raise 2 very young children as well. When he lost his wife, one was only 14 months old and the other was only 4. But the Lord restored all of that when he put us together and blended our family together in a beautiful way, and gave us 2 more children out of our present marriage. So that brought it to 6.
And get this, Gordon Williams ends up marrying the two of you.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, by the way.
Yes, that's right. He married us. He ministered to both of us, actually. Me in 1979 in New Brunswick, and James when he was seeking for direction in his life in 1986 in London, Ontario. We still hadn't met yet. But then when we did meet, we were dating, and I was living in Cambridge. Gordon had a church that he was pastoring in Kitchener, so we went there on some of our dates to go to his church, got to know Gordon, told him our story, what he'd done in our lives, like how the Lord had used him in our lives. And then, of course, when we got engaged, we told Gordon that we were engaged, and he's just, with that big jolly laugh of his, he said, when do I get to tie the knot? So, of course, he did do just that, and it was in a beautiful little summer wedding, outdoor wedding at our place where we live today.
Thank you so much, Deanna, for sharing your story and how this ministry has touched you in so many ways. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
And I hope Deanna's story is an encouragement to you. Maybe you're a single parent struggling and you feel alone. Remember what Deanna said, it was finding that love in Jesus.
That's right.
It was knowing that he could comfort her in those dark times. So if you need prayer, I'd encourage you to call our prayer lines, 1-866-273-4444, or email prayer@crossroads.ca. Amazing people that would love to remind you that Jesus is with you and to pray with you today. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This Christmas season, Yes TV gives the gift of music with a special presentation of Natalie McMaster's Celtic Family Christmas, featuring Sean Hook and Jackie Ovanko. Natalie McMaster's A Celtic Family Christmas, December 8th at 9 on Yes TV.
In an instant, crushing news can steal the air from your lungs and quickly knock you off your feet, leaving you hopeless and alone, oftentimes with nowhere and no one to turn to. Like gravity, tragedy has a way of pulling us down. Since 1977, Crossroads Prayer Center has responded to the cry of over 10 million callers and has been a lifeboat of hope to people drowning in despair. Our 24/7 prayer partners pray God's life-giving word into over 1,200 situations every single day. Behind these numbers are real people with real needs who rely on us for prayer support to lift them up in their critical time. But for every 1,200 calls we handle, there are 300 we simply don't have the resources to answer. Please call 1-800-265-3100 or give online at crossroads.ca/give. Give hope, change lives.
And we certainly want to get more phones available for people to call. And that's been just the heart of this ministry. You're talking early in the program about Castle, this new initiative, where we can have this two-way conversation with people. So it's important that we keep those prayer lines strong and even build on the infrastructure we already have there so we don't drop those 300 calls. So thank you for all that you're doing. Those prayer lines are so important. You know, listening to Deanna's story and the impact that 100 Huntley Street had on her and her family, that's why we're here, telling these transforming, amazing stories. We also have the humanitarian work that we're doing all around the world. It's because of your faithful giving. And for a gift of $25 or more, we want to get you this great-looking mug, Be Still and Know. I don't know about you, but I need to be still and know, especially during this busy season. So again, give us a call and we will get that mug to you as soon as we can. We're so again grateful for your support. Well, coming up next, has Christmas turned into anger? Are you frustrated because of all the holiday pressures? Well, here's pastor and guest Bible teacher Carrie Newhoff with some thoughts about that.
We all have moments we're not proud of, and I've got my share. I'm sure you do as well. A few years ago, we had a plumber into our house to fix just a mechanical issue with our sump pump. Long story short, he said he'd be back in 5 days. On day 4, I noticed water in the basement, and not just a little bit of water, a lot of water. I immediately called the plumber. He came back, he kind of got it fixed, and when it was all over, I said, well, what are we going to do about it? And he goes, well, it wasn't my responsibility. And I'm like, it was a mechanical failure, and you worked on the mechanics. And I brought in a couple of friends I had to look at it because I'm not the most mechanical person. And I said, what's going on here? And they said, no, it was definitely a mechanical failure. So I called the plumber back, and I said, what are we going to do? Like, at this point, we're out thousands, maybe $10,000 worth of damage in the basement. It was a finished basement. And he said, not my fault. Well, I got to tell you, I was frustrated. I was angry. I said to him, hey, why don't you claim it on your insurance? And he just stonewalled us. So I was basically out of the money. And I haven't been that angry in a long, long time. I'm not proud of my anger, but we ended up eating the cost. We didn't want to claim it on our insurance, so we paid for it out of pocket. And we'd been saving money, but not saving for someone else's irresponsibility. But I was so frustrated. And I took it to friends of mine who were younger. They were in our small group at the time. And I explained the situation, that I wasn't really behaving like a pastor, and I was so frustrated and angry. And one of the young women who was in her early 20s said, you know what, Carrie? She said, my dad does the same kind of thing. And she said, I can tell you why he's not paying. He doesn't have the money. It never occurred to me. He's not insured, doesn't have the money. And for the first time, I felt a little bit of compassion. But you know, that's where anger comes from. Anger comes from a place where we say, you know what, you owe me. And there's a very real sense in which that plumber kind of owed us because he made a mistake that ended up costing us money. And sometimes people don't understand the anger of God. And sometimes people are angry at God. But you know, the reality of Christmas as we get closer and closer to the day is that we actually owed God. And you actually owe people. And God looked at us, and it was in a very similar situation. Like I've done things I don't know how to fix. And I've turned my back on God at different times in my life. You've turned your back on God at different times in my life, and we actually owe Him. And you know what He did at Christmas? He canceled the debt. He just said, I forgive you. Jesus actually uses financial language in the Lord's Prayer. Did you know that? When He said, forgive us our sins, it actually means like going to a bank and forgiving the loan. God canceled our debts. So the question I want you to wrestle with as you head into Christmas is this. Whose debt do you need to cancel? Who do you need to forgive? Because forgiven people forgive people. It was hard for me to forgive that tradesman, but I did. And he actually owed us, but I actually owed God, and you actually owed God, and God forgave us in Jesus Christ. Forgiven people forgive people, even the people who really owe them. So who do you need to forgive as we head into Christmas?
Oh, that's good.
A little
That's
conviction
good.
there, Maggie. We'll talk about that more another time. Hey, but we have got a sneak peek, something that's exciting coming up.
Yeah, so earlier this year, I got to visit the set of a brand new movie. More to come about that and my visit there. It's called Breakthrough, produced by Devon Franklin, as well as starring Chrissy Metz from This Is Us. Let's take a sneak peek.
Boys, get off the ice!
We're training for the Olympics, sir!
Cindy!
He's been underwater for more than 15 minutes. It's gonna be a recovery, not a rescue. I got something. We got him!
We've done everything medically possible. There's nothing more we can do.
No! Please, God, send your Holy Spirit to save my son.
A 14-year-old St. Charles boy who spent 15 minutes trapped underwater is continuing to fight for his life.
I don't believe John will survive the night.
You don't know my son. He is a fighter. So I need you to be the best for John, and you just let God do the rest.
Okay, so it comes out Easter 2019. This is a true life story, Greg, and got to meet the real life family of this story as well. So much more to come. Check out in the next couple weeks, we'll have some exclusive interviews with Chrissy Metz and many of the team that brought Breakthrough together.
I have to wait till April after watching that, Maggie?
But no, you don't. You just watch 100 Huntley Street in the next couple weeks.
Well, yeah, okay.
And you will see those interviews.
I look forward to it, and the movie too. Have a great one, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for your ongoing support of Crossroads, a member of the Canadian Council of Christian Charities. You can write to Crossroads, P.O. Box 5100, Burlington, Ontario, L7R 4M2.
This program sponsored in part by DL Deeks Insurance. For quality service and great rates on your auto, property, or commercial insurance, call us today or visit our website at deeksinsurance.ca.